On this, let's bring in Wyoming Senator Cynthia Lummis. Senator Lummis, it's a pleasure. Thank you for coming back on the show. This is a ruse, and it's not a very good ruse. This is a ruse to end gasoline-powered cars, which is what the Bidens and their Green New Deal bureaucrats have always wanted. I mean, that's the way I look at it. You disagree?
I don't disagree with you, and I fully agree with my colleague from Wyoming, John Barrasso. We drive over a mile high every day. We drive in bitter cold, and we drive through mountains. Electric vehicles were not built to perform in the environments that we drive in every day. They're expensive, and they don't work, and they don't have enough range, and we don't have enough EV charging stations. And it is something that was built for the coastal elites, by the coastal elites, and they're the ones who need to use those, but they can't impose them on middle America because they weren't built for us and they won't work for us.
You know, it's just the arrogance of this. Look, you got to have batteries. You got to have commodities. Of course, China has most of the commodities because they don't let us drill here in the States. You got a lot of the nickel and lithium and whatnot in Wyoming, but they won't let you drill for it, for the greenies. Anyway, drilling causes carbon emissions. Building the batteries causes carbon emissions. Roads and tires causes carbon emissions. In other words, my point is, net on balance, I'm not at all convinced, and neither are a lot of people, that you're actually going to reduce carbon emissions. That's what I think.
I agree with you, Larry. We look at the carbon emissions associated with the production of wind energy. We look at the fact that in order to make wind turbines run when it is bitter cold requires oil. We look at the fact that now you're seeing interesting new alliances. You're seeing liquid fuels join forces where before they didn't used to. You're meaning coal, ethanol, and oil and gas. You're also seeing the makers of combustion engines and cars in Detroit and elsewhere in Michigan, these states that are really battleground states, creating new interesting alliances to push back on something consumers can't afford, don't want to buy, and don't want pushed down their throats. It's a very interesting environment.
And I think Trump is right. In these communities, Detroit, outside of Detroit, maybe elsewhere down south, there's going to be a bloodbath. You're going to lose hundreds of thousands of jobs. I mean, it's just that simple. Here's another one, Senator Lummis. I don't know what the authority is. Does the EPA have the congressionally mandated legal authority to take out gasoline cars? So I don't recall any such bill. And as you know, West Virginia versus the EPA said that a lot of this stuff is unconstitutional. Now, what about that? Since when did we say you can abolish gasoline cars?
I think that this administration doesn't have regard for the law. You see it at our southern border. You see it at the EPA. They want to take more control than they've ever had just by disregarding the law and going with what they think is good policy from the elitists on the coasts. And they just say, if you don't like it, take us to court. It's the same kind of garbage that you see President Trump having to go through in these lawsuits against him, where they're alleging crimes where no one was injured, and they're going to use these ridiculous judgments to take his property away. Yeah. This is a lawless administration that we're dealing with, Larry, and we're seeing it in the Department of Justice, in the FBI, the CIA. We're seeing it EPA as well, and part of it is because of this crazy radical environmental agenda.
All right, so I got one more for you, Senator, last minute or minute and a half. Biden has Biden has an $8 billion request for 50,000 climate corps. I think of them as little climate crusaders, but I will tell you what else I think they are. This is bigger than Zuckerbucks, if you ask me. These people will go out and harvest votes come election day. for the, pro-green candidates, i.e. the Democratic candidate. He wants 50,000 climate core people. What do you think they're going to do come Election Day? I ask you, Senator Lummis.
Well, certainly they're going to be out supporting the campaigns of the proponents of the Green New Deal. And the Green New Deal was drafted by people who don't create jobs, who don't work in the creation of economic wealth and prosperity in the United States. They're like community organizers.
Yes.
And so you have even the climate scientists who help create the United Nations global climate change initiatives are saying this is not an essential threat. Mm-hmm. This is something that's not going to destroy our universe as quickly as our southern border is being invaded, our economy is being eroded, our money is worth less and less, inflation is destroying the economic life of everyday Americans. Even some of the people who developed the UN climate change work are saying that. So the Biden administration has taken this to an extreme that it was never supposed to be, never intended, and they're using it to implement more of a statist Marxist philosophy.
Yep, there's no congressional mandate for it. 50,000 little climate crusaders. What you got there is 50,000 little vote harvesters. I know what that's all about. Anyway, Senator Cynthia Lummis of the great state of Wyoming, thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you, Larry.
All right, coming